I was left with the pain from having a long-term relationship breakdown and also the financial vulnerability of not having any income. I stayed there much longer than I needed to because I just didn't know how to take that first step. Family friend who had a mortgage broking business said to me, I think you'd be a great mortgage broker. I liked the idea because it would help me tick that box of gaining that much needed financial knowledge.
What were some of the big things that you've been able to take away from your mortgage broking career in terms of financial security?
Just understanding your financial position, opening up those bank statements or the app on the phone and looking at your income and looking at your expenses with any debt and just putting it all down on a very, very simple spreadsheet. That's the key, is that just trying to keep everything simple, just recording it. One of the outdated mindsets is that your bank is loyal to you. That's why I decided on the heading why you should date your bank and not marry them, is because there's no loyalty within banks.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name's Dion Payne. I'm your host today, and I'm joined by a wonderful lady called Cara Julian. Now, Cara is a mission-driven mortgage broker and founder of Brava Finance, dedicated to empowering women with the knowledge and confidence to build financial security. Drawing from her own experience of navigating financial uncertainty post-divorce, she specializes in helping women buy their first home, refinance, or re-enter the property market with clarity and control. Through her book, Why You Should Date Your Bank and Not Marry Them, and her advocacy for financial gender literacy, Cara is on a mission to challenge outdated mindsets and make homeownership more accessible for women. Welcome, Cara.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here. I feel honoured.
Yeah, look, it's lovely to have you here. And there is so much in this bio and what you've shared. I'm just like, I can't wait to get started. So first of all, where did you get started? How did you end up on this journey to be empowering women financially?
Okay, so I suppose it starts a long time ago, where I grew up in an era where men looked after the finances. So it's pretty rubbish managing my finances throughout life. I was married and gave all my financial responsibility away. So didn't have that opportunity to get that financial education and resulting confidence. We separated, didn't have really any major debt or children or anything. So sort of just carried on the way. And then I made that same mistake again and entered into another relationship, handed my financial responsibility over. And we had a daughter together, and it was a long-term relationship. And then previous to that, so I was in the corporate world, sales and marketing. And then when I had my daughter, I was a stay-at-home mum for for about 5 years, and then decided that I wanted to start my own business to provide that flexibility. So I started a marketing business. I was a marketing consultancy, but unfortunately didn't survive COVID. So nor did my relationship. So they both ended at the same time. So I was left, obviously with the pain from having a long-term relationship breakdown, and also the financial vulnerability of not having any income and having that, the responsibility for creating the financial security, not just for me, but for my daughter. And it was just a horrible position to be in. And to be fair, I stayed there much longer than I needed to, because I just didn't know how to take that first step. I sort of just didn't really have that support around me to help. And then it came to a decision: do I try and resurrect my marketing business, or what do I do for income? So a family friend who had a mortgage broking business said to me, "Look, I think you'd be a great mortgage broker." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Interesting, given, I don't have a finance background and very little financial knowledge. But I liked the idea because it would help me tick that box of gaining that much needed financial knowledge. And also I liked the model for helping me create this, financial security that I so desperately needed. So I trained as a mortgage broker and started my journey under his wing of his brand. And then officially went out on my own at the start of last year and formed Brava Finance. But for me, what it meant, though, was that I really wanted to be able to help other women who were in similar positions and make essentially my story a part of their survival guide, and, try and help particularly women, because I've been there before. I know the pain. And, having grown up in an era where men looked after the finances, then, I know that that's similar for a lot of women out there, especially a lot of the customers that I speak to. So I decided to write a book. So I took about 9 months sort of out of writing loans, and wrote my book, Why You Should Date Your Bank, Not Marry Them. And it's my mission to not make money from that book. It's to get it in the hands of as many women as possible, just to help give them that first step, that understanding that someone else has been out there and been through, not exactly, but similar to what they've been through, and that they have support and guidance if they want.
Wow. I love that. Number one, I love the vulnerability in what you shared. And, it's hard to admit sometimes that, we don't have our financial, stuff together. So thank you for that, because it kind of almost normalizes it. It just makes it so that other women that are in this position don't have to feel so bad, because they know other people go through it as well. So I really do appreciate your vulnerability in sharing what you shared there. And there's something else about, when you've got a lived experience of a problem that you're trying to solve for somebody, it just makes it more more potent. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yes, I've walked in your shoes, and actually there's light at the end of the tunnel. So let me help you to get there. I love that. So, I mean, look, there's a lot in what you shared as well. And I really want to go back to what you were saying about how you got into mortgage broking, and it kind of gave you that financial stability because, of course, you had an income, but you got to learn a lot around, increasing your financial literacy as well. What were some of the big things that you've been able to take away from your mortgage broking career in terms of financial security?
For me, it was really a catalyst for going, you need to look at your own finances. you can't just be keeping that head in the sand. So in my book, I have a chapter on building those financial foundations, where, because I'm not a financial advisor, I can't give financial advice, but it's just the steps that I took. And training as a mortgage broker does help provide me, I suppose, with the need to start looking at the finances and what I should do, I suppose, in the next step. And so, starting off at just creating a baseline. So just understanding your financial position, actually opening up those bank statements or the app on the phone and looking at your income and looking at your expenses with any debt, and just putting it all down on a very, very simple spreadsheet. That's the key, is that just trying to keep everything simple, just recording it. And what I found that did for me was just an opportunity to look where I could cut back on some expenses and potentially look at savings as well. And I think then creating that vision, what do I want? What does financial security look like for me? And this doesn't all just happen on one sit down. Do you know what I mean? Like it does.
If only it did.
Exactly. But it just, I suppose the training just got me in that financial mindset, the mindset where, I had to focus, and then building those healthy financial habits. A lot of the time is any direct debits, making sure that you put them on auto payment so that you're not missing any of the payments. And perhaps if you have some, buy now, pay later, like afterpay debt, you could look at paying them down and reducing any limits that you have perhaps on credit cards. And then, not everyone's going to retrain as a mortgage broker. So it's important to get the education that's required just around it. And in my book, that there are some steps to follow and a good place to start. But even if it's, enrolling yourself in just a basics of finances masterclass somewhere, or, and each time you take that step, it just helps you take that next step. And then you sort of get a bit more of a momentum happening, and then implementing that plan. So, it's all well and good to write everything down and this is going to be my plan. This is how I'm going to get to my goal. But it's actually taking those steps to implement it as well. And then I found connecting with others was quite important. There's so many great Facebook groups, out there, or even following some great money, Instagram pages, or just connecting and seeing. And in those groups, you can just see, other people are in the same position as you, and that helped me quite a lot.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And now you mentioned about money habits, and obviously you put some money habits in place. Well, what are, say, 3 key money habits that you recommend somebody start with?
Well, I think for me, actually setting a budget, and I have the most simple spreadsheet. I'm happy to send that to anybody, and it does have the formulas in it to help you just writing all of the income, writing down your expenses and how much per month, and then putting your income in, and at the bottom it just shows whether it's a surplus or a deficit. But looking at that once a month, that's how I started, just looking at that once a month, and adjusting if necessary, going through just to have a wee look, to see if there were those areas where I could potentially look at reducing some expenses. That's, I suppose what was the best thing for me, just cancelling any of the buy now, pay later, which is just quite easy to get yourself into. Cancelling those, and actually cancelling my credit card. So it was quite full on, because it's like, well, that's a bit of a safety net, but I felt like I had to start from a clean slate. And so there are the 3 things that I did, top 3 things, I suppose, that helped shift my mindset, really. Shift it from I'm no good at finances to actually I'm taking control of my own finances, and I can do this. Because what I find is, other than the fact that a lot of people grew up with that mindset that men looked after the finances in the family, even now today, the media still, their messaging is directed towards men. Grow grow your wealth by investing in shares. You know, and the messaging and the photos and everything is really directed towards men. Women, it's like, you know, stop spending so much money. Cut back on the lattes. You don't need to buy those expensive shoes. That's still the messaging that happens today. And so what is that going to do for one's confidence? So it's about doing these steps, and, you know, obviously building that financial knowledge helps you build that financial confidence, which helps then support building that financially secure future.
Yeah, cool. And I loved what you had to say as well about keeping things really simple. Because often, I mean, I know sometimes when I'm not wanting to look at something, it just seems like Ben-Hur, you know, like it feels really complicated, but keeping things really simple that makes a lot of sense. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, because you mentioned your book before as well. So what inspired you to write the book?
Just creating a resource to help particularly women. I had quite a few men read my book too. Because as I said, I wanted to make my story a part of someone else's survival guide. And how could I get my story across to people and I suppose help provide that financial education to support building women's financial literacy? How can I best do that? And interestingly, like, someone, you know, did recommend I write a book, and I'm a very succinct speaker or writer. Like, everything is, I just don't use any fluffy or big words, or I write exactly to the point. I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to write a book? But I think just knowing what my goal was and how this resource, that's the book there,
very cool,
how this resource was going to help women, because it's a mortgage 101. It's the basics of mortgages and building that financial confidence. So it's exactly what I needed. I knew that that's what I needed and I didn't have. So I wanted to be able to write something that I knew would have been beneficial to me and that will be beneficial to other people. And just having access to financial education or education that perhaps they wouldn't have before. But it's funny, because I wrote this book not with the goal of making money. It didn't matter what I called it. It didn't matter the fact that it's pink, which is my favorite color, or that I'm on the front in a denim pantsuit with a glass of champagne. Because a few people were like, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, yes, I can. And trying to make finance a bit of fun.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things that I see around conversations around money is often it's not very joyful. Often it's quite serious. And you know, what you were saying before about men and shares, right? You know, or women spending too much and the guilt. But there seems to be not a lot of joy when it comes to talking about finances. So I think it's really refreshing that you have a pink book and that you're on there in a really fun jumpsuit and you're holding a glass of champagne. Because actually, I just feel that when we are spending and investing in alignment with our values, that money should be fun and joyful and yeah, all of those good things.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can get into a place where that can be achieved, but you know, you really have to have that shift in mindset. And for me, just doing the things and taking one step and then that next step helps build. And like anything you do, doesn't it? Just helps build that confidence. And with what I do, even like on my Instagram, particularly, I make it fun. You know what I mean? And I don't follow those traditional finance broker, posts. I do things differently. So, you know, and I suppose that's what I'm trying to do. And in the book, you know, challenging outdated mindsets is a big thing for me. And, you know, obviously there's that men look after the finances, but another one which ties into, what we've spoken about is one of the outdated mindsets is that your bank is loyal to you.
Yes.
Yes, because, and that's why I wrote, I decided on the heading why you should date your bank and not marry them, is because there's no loyalty within banks. And I know that, a lot of people grew up, particularly here in Australia. So I grew up in New Zealand, but one big yellow bank in particular, everyone started off with their wee savings card, didn't they? Right from primary school. And you developed this relationship with your bank, and they were the bank you naturally went to for your first credit card, and then your first car loan and personal loan and mortgage. And people have been with their bank for 30 years expecting that they are going to be loyal to them, and that, sure, I'm going to be on, the most competitive rate out there, aren't I? And so many times, customers will come to me and I'll do just a comparison with their rate to other lenders. We have access to over 50 different lenders, and new customer rates for refinance are often like 25, 50 basis points different. So you end up paying a lender loyalty tax if you stay with your one bank expecting them to have your best interests at heart. Sure, there's always an exception to the rule, but so many times. So it's keeping that relationship with your bank casual. It's not being tied down to them. And if you have a mortgage every couple of years, just having a look what else is out there in the market, and comparing your rate so that that your loan is in a healthy position because you're on the most competitive rate.
Yeah. And I'm curious as well, like in today's interest rates, what would be, sort of a few basis points? What would be the actual financial impact on that in terms of what somebody would be overpaying by being with that loyalty tax?
Well, and it's really dependent on loan size. But just for example, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a customer call, and it's just that one phone call. It takes 5 minutes of your time. And it's literally about only 5 pieces of information I need to be able to do it. And there was only 18 basis points difference in the rate. And the plan is that they would obviously get their mortgage on a more competitive rate, keep paying the previous higher repayment amount, and they save 2 years off their loan term. So, I've had customers that have been able to, what you're doing is you're reducing the amount of interest that you pay over the life of the loan, which shortens your loan term. I've had customers up to 7 years because their rate, they've just been rolling, through thinking that they're on the most competitive rate, and sadly they're not. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, look, it's great to quantify that as well. So just by that loyalty tax, and uncovering that somebody's been able to save a couple of years off their mortgage, which, I'm not sure how old that client was, but certainly when you're getting towards retirement age, that starts to become really important, because that is, 2 years off your mortgage is 2 years better, sort of better off financially. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. And, if you keep doing that every couple of years and checking, and even just getting your rate down, then, over the life of the loan, there's many benefits. Making sure, though, that you don't push it out to a 30-year refinance every time, because, that's not going to be beneficial to you. But when people go directly to their bank continuously, what you're also doing is having to fit in with what their product suite is, right? So it's like if you need a new outfit and you go, it's like going to bank is like going to Chadstone Shopping Centre and going to one shop to find that outfit and making whatever's in that store just work for you, as opposed to going to a mortgage broker would be like having a personal stylist that understands your brief, walks around and knows each one of the shops, and is able to find something that works for you, that's within your best interest.
I love that analogy of the personal stylist of your financial future.
And you don't have to pay for it either, because the lender pays a mortgage broker's commission most of the time. Some mortgage brokers may charge However, it has to be disclosed right at the beginning of their discussions, and you have to actually sign a report. So, yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit because I've got, a few women that are in my network, close friends of mine, and they're at that point of their life where they're looking for a mortgage. And, we've had conversations, I've had conversations with some of them, and they find the whole idea of buying a property quite daunting. What are some of the misconceptions that you see that women have when it comes to buying homes?
Definitely they can't afford a home. Income might not be high enough, won't have enough of a deposit. Is definitely one of the biggest ones. And I think taking that step of actually just going to a mortgage broker and go, hey, this is my financial position. This is how much I earn. These are my expenses. This is my deposit. What can we do? Because I have customers that I work with, and they may not be able to buy a house now, but in 12 months' time, they can. So we sit down and we actually look at the numbers and go, okay, this is your income. They may not know that you can add, like a family tax benefit or child maintenance into that for income. We look at their income, your expenses, and then can work out your borrowing capacity. So that might be, this is the amount that the bank is going to lend you. Then we look at your savings, because there's always two parts to buying a property. So your deposit and the maximum loan that you can get. And then we're able to go, okay, so this is our baseline. This is where we stand. If you want to buy a property for X amount, then we need to have this amount in savings. So we can have a look at your budget and work out how long it's going to take you to save that. So that helps your mindset so much, knowing that it is in, maybe not now, but in the future, that you will actually be able to buy a property. And there are also government schemes called the Home Guarantee Scheme that helps support either first home buyers, where you can borrow up to 95% of the value of the property, or even the Family Home Guarantee Scheme. So as a single parent with dependents, the government supports you by acting as guarantor for a percentage, so that you can borrow up to 95% again. So a lot of people don't know this, and I think the key is getting the information right and having somebody that can say, right, this is the amount that you can borrow. This is the amount that you can of the maximum purchase price for a property. If we can't do it now, let's do it in 12 months' time. So we work that out. So it's just having somebody there to guide and support you, because you're not alone in this process. Having a mortgage broker, can hold your hand and take you through that process. It's about getting that information and knowledge, which is key to helping you improve that financial confidence and build that financially secure future.
Yeah, cool. And is this, some of the people in my network that I was referring to before are single women, single mums with children. And I know that certainly for them, they're thinking this is just too hard. We're never going to get a mortgage. What are some things that you'd say to them specifically that could help? I
think the key is, in anything, is building a support team around you. So, other than getting a copy of my book, which I'm happy to send out to anybody, and building that knowledge, reaching out to particularly a mortgage broker, understand exactly where you're at and what options are available to you in terms of support. Because as I said, that the government home guarantee scheme, it's not an exchange of money from the government. All they're doing is just on paper providing the guarantee for the difference between 80% loan to value ratio and 95%. So instead of you having to come up with that deposit yourself, then the government can help you out with that until a time is when you pay the loan down or the value of the property increases and you get under that 80% loan to value ratio, and then the guarantor finishes. So yeah, I think it's really just about making sure you understand and your options available to you.
That's really cool. And often there's so much conflicting information out there to and so much information out there, and particularly with the rise of AI as well. There's just so much crap. Like, how do you sift through the crap? But part of why I started the Financially Empowered Women podcast is because I knew that there was all of this amazing information out there. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that there were people out there that knew this information, and I really wanted to collate it in a way that it could be helpful to people so they just know what their options are. Because once you've got the facts, then you can make different decisions, right? Yeah. Well, look, we are about to wrap up this podcast episode. It's been absolutely delightful to have you on the show. I just wondered, is there anything that you think I've missed in terms of questions that you just really want to get out there for people that are watching or listening to this podcast?
I think that you've definitely covered a lot in your questions, which is amazing. And I do tend to go off into a wee tangent of my own. I think getting yourself into a position to be able to potentially buy a house, even if you just back it up a few steps, and understanding your finances for a start. So getting that into a position where you can have that discussion with a mortgage broker about your income and your debt, managing your debt so that that you don't have any missed payments, or that you go over the limit, anything that can potentially impact your credit score. And, checking your credit reports to make sure that it's accurate and that there have been, there's not something that's been sitting there for ages that you need to dispute because it's not correct. I think that's probably the key, and to help getting everything into a good position to then be able to speak to a broker. But just understand that there is support out there, to help guide you through this, and that you aren't on your own is probably the key.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Cara. It's been wonderful to have this conversation with you today. And from myself, from our listeners, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Cara, you mentioned that you have your book, How to Date Your Bank and Not Marry Them. I hope I've got that in the right order. How can people get a copy of that?
Okay, so there's on my website, there is and I think will you share that link? But my website is bravafinance.com.au, and you can just click on that and either download the copy as a PDF, or I can send you a copy, post you a copy. You just use the code FREEBOOK, all in capitals, at checkout, and so you won't have to pay a thing. But I'll get the information and send you a copy of that book out to you ASAP.
Cara, that's such a generous gift. Thank you so much. So for anybody that's interested in ordering a copy of your book, it's available for free. I will have the website details in the show notes. The lovely pink book with the lovely woman in the jumpsuit and the champagne. Get that book. And I just know, sort of from your generosity, it's really going to change lives for people that read your book. So thank you again. And thank you for coming on the show. And it's been wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. And amazing what you do as well, just quietly. And so definitely, being able to support women by having this podcast and listening to other people and gaining that education, then that's really important. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.